The alien vampire opened her eyes in my lab and whispered, "You saved me. Asterisk the awakening DR." Nathan Cole never expected his Tuesday morning to begin with an alien vampire calling him her savior. The research station on Titan's southern hemisphere had been his sanctuary for 3 years, a place where he could tinker with experimental technology without corporate oversight breathing down his neck. The coffee was terrible. The heating system made sounds like a dying walrus, and the nearest human being was 12 million kilometers away. Perfect. He was recalibrating the quantum resonance chamber when the stasis pod started glowing. The ancient artifact had been sitting in his lab for months, a mysterious relic recovered from a derelict ship near Saturn's rings. The Galactic Survey Corps had dumped it on him with a shrug and a warning label that basically said, "Probably. Dangerous, definitely expensive if you break it." The pod cracked open with a sound like breaking crystal, releasing a mist that smelled of ozone and starlight. Nathan stumbled backward, knocking over his morning coffee and sending his tablet clattering across the floor. Inside the pod, a figure began to stir. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way that made his brain temporarily forget how to form coherent thoughts. Pale skin that seemed to glow from within, long silver hair that moved like liquid mercury, and eyes that opened to reveal irises the color of deep space. Her ears were pointed and delicate, her features sharp and elegant. She wore a form-fitting suit that looked like it was woven from midnight itself. When she sat up and looked directly at him, Nathan made a sound somewhere between a squeak and a dying printer. "Hello," she said, her voice carrying an accent he couldn't place. It was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You're the one who saved me." "I'm sorry, what?" Nathan managed, still trying to process the fact that his Tuesday had just become significantly more complicated. "I didn't save anyone. I was just fixing the power coupling, and the pod started glowing, and then you were there, and I really need to sit down." She stepped out of the pod with fluid grace, her bare feet making no sound on the cold metal floor. Despite being roughly his height, she somehow managed to seem both delicate and intimidating. "You restored power to my stasis chamber." "I have been dreaming for 3 centuries, waiting for someone to find me." 3 centuries? Nathan's voice cracked slightly. "What are you exactly?" A small smile played at the corners of her mouth, revealing teeth that were perfectly normal except for the canines that were just a bit too sharp. "My name is Zara Nightwhisper. I am what your people might call a vampire, though we prefer the term umbral. We feed on energy rather than blood." Nathan nodded as if this was perfectly reasonable information to receive on a Tuesday morning. "Right, energy vampire, of course. That makes total sense. I'm Nathan, by the way. Dr. Nathan Cole. I'm a xenotechnology researcher, which apparently now includes accidentally awakening ancient alien vampires." Zara tilted her head, studying him with those mesmerizing eyes. "You seem nervous, Nathan Cole." "Well, you're the first alien I've met who isn't trying to either conquer Earth or sell me extended warranties on my spacecraft. It's a refreshing change, but still mildly terrifying." She laughed, a sound like silver bells. "I have no interest in conquering your world. I was fleeing from something far worse when I entered stasis. My ship was damaged, my crew scattered or dead. I thought I would sleep forever." Nathan felt his scientific curiosity overriding his instinct to run screaming. "What were you fleeing from?" Zara's expression grew serious. "The Void Hunters. They consume entire civilizations, leaving nothing but empty space behind. They destroyed my homeworld, my people. I was carrying something precious, something that could help other worlds defend themselves." She moved to a control panel on the side of the pod and pressed her palm against it. The surface glowed, and a small compartment opened, revealing a crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. This is a stellar core fragment, she explained. It contains the compressed essence of a dying star. In the right hands, it could power planetary defense systems or create weapons capable of stopping the Void Hunters. Nathan stared at the crystal, then at Zara, then back at the crystal. And you're telling me this because? Because you saved me, Nathan Cole. And because I sense something in you, something that tells me you might be the key to stopping them before they find Earth. Outside the station, unknown to both of them, something dark and hungry had detected the energy signature of an awakening umbral. The hunt was about to begin. The connection the next few hours passed in a blur of explanations, demonstrations, and the gradual realization that Nathan's quiet life of scientific research had just become infinitely more complicated. Zara had made herself at home in his lab, examining his equipment with a kind of focused interest that made him feel simultaneously proud and inadequate. Your technology is primitive but elegant, she said, running her fingers along the quantum resonance chamber. You've managed to achieve stable particle manipulation with resources that would barely power a child's toy on my world. Thanks. I think, Nathan replied, watching her work. There was something hypnotic about the way she moved, as if she was dancing to music only she could hear. So about this Void Hunter situation. Should I be panicking now or waiting until they actually show up? Zara paused in her examination of his equipment. They follow energy signatures. My awakening will have sent ripples through subspace. They'll come, but it may take time. We have perhaps weeks, maybe months. Well, that's reassuring, Nathan muttered, pulling up star charts on his main display. So what's the plan? Hide? Run? Build a really big gun? All of the above, Zara said with a grin that showed those sharp canines. But first, I need to understand your species better. The fragment I carry must be attuned to the defenders who will wield it. Tell me about humans, Nathan Cole. Nathan laughed nervously. That's a pretty big topic. We're stubborn, creative, occasionally brilliant, frequently stupid, and we have an alarming tendency to solve problems by hitting them with bigger problems. Show me, Zara said, moving closer to him. Your memories, your experiences. It's the fastest way. Before Nathan could ask what she meant, she placed her hand on his forehead. The world exploded into sensation as she dove into his mind, experiencing his memories as if they were her own. She saw his childhood on Mars Colony, his parents' pride when he earned his doctorate, the loneliness of the research station, and the quiet satisfaction he found in solving impossible problems. But she also saw something else. She saw the time. He'd jury-rigged a fusion reactor to save a mining colony when corporate bureaucracy would have let them die. She saw him working 36 straight hours to develop a cure for a plague that was wiping out the outer settlements. She saw him giving away his own research to help other scientists, never caring about credit or recognition. When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. Your species is remarkable, she whispered. I've seen civilizations that spanned galaxies, but none with your capacity for selfless determination. Nathan felt dizzy, still processing the intimacy of having someone walk through his memories. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I've seen hope, Zara replied. A fragment will bond with you easily. Your neural patterns, your emotional resonance, it's exactly what we need. Wait, what? Nathan backed away slightly. Bond with me? What does that mean exactly? Zara held up the crystalline device, which was now pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The stellar core fragment chooses its guardian based on compatibility. It's chosen you, Nathan. You'll be able to channel stellar energy, manipulate gravity, even bend space-time on a small scale. Nathan stared at the crystal, then at Zara. That sounds incredibly dangerous. It is, she admitted, but it's also our only chance. The Void. Hunters are coming, and when they arrive, Earth will need protectors who can fight on their level. Before Nathan could respond, the station's proximity alarms began blaring. Both of them turned to look at the main display, which showed a massive shape emerging from hyperspace near Saturn's rings. It was like looking at a hole in reality itself, a ship that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. How long did you say we had? Nathan asked weakly. Zara's face had gone pale. I was wrong. They're already here. The Void Hunter ship began moving toward Titan with terrifying purpose. Nathan could see smaller craft detaching from the main vessel, spreading out in a search pattern. They had maybe an hour before the station was discovered. Okay, Nathan said, surprised by how calm his voice sounded. What do we do? Zara looked at him with a mixture of admiration and concern. We fight. But first, you need to bond with the fragment. It's going to hurt. Nathan looked at the crystal, then at the approaching ships, then at Zara's determined face. Will it hurt worse than being dissolved by interdimensional monsters? Probably not, she admitted. Good enough, Nathan said, reaching for the fragment. Let's do this. As his fingers closed around the crystal, the universe exploded into light and pain, and the sudden, overwhelming knowledge that he was no longer entirely human. Outside, the Void Hunters continued their approach, unaware that their prey had just become something far more dangerous than they anticipated. The transformation the stellar core fragment felt like holding a piece of the sun. Pain shot through Nathan's nervous system as cosmic energy rewrote his DNA at the cellular level. But underneath the agony was something else. Power, pure, overwhelming. Power that made his teeth ache and his vision blur with colors that didn't have names. Zara caught him as he staggered, her cool hand steadying him as the transformation completed itself. Breathe, she whispered. Let it settle. Don't fight it. Nathan gasped, feeling like he'd been struck by lightning and then asked to do calculus. The station around him looked different now. He could see the electromagnetic fields flowing through. The walls, the quantum fluctuations in the air, the gravitational eddies created by Titan's rotation. It was beautiful and terrifying and completely overwhelming. I can see everything, he whispered, staring at his hands. They were glowing faintly, energy crackling between his fingers. The whole universe is connected. How do people not notice this? Because they're not bonded to stellar fragments, Zara said with a small smile. How do you feel? Nathan took inventory. The pain was fading, replaced by a sense of strength and clarity he'd never experienced. His mind felt sharper, his reflexes quicker, and there was a warm presence in the back of his consciousness that felt like the fragment's awareness. Like I could bench press a planet, he admitted. Is that normal? For a human bonded with a stellar core fragment? There is no normal. Zara replied, You're the first of your kind, Nathan. A bridge between human ingenuity and cosmic power. Their conversation was interrupted by another alarm. The Void Hunter scouts had found the station. Through the viewport, Nathan could see sleek black ships circling like sharks, their sensors probing the station's defenses. They know we're here, Zara said, her voice tight with tension. They can sense the fragment's awakening. Nathan stood, surprised by how steady he felt, despite everything that had happened. The fragment's power hung through him, waiting to be directed. So what's their weakness? How do we fight them? Zara moved to the station's defensive controls, her fingers dancing over the interface. They feed on entropy, on the dissolution of order into chaos. But they're vulnerable to coherent energy, to creation rather than destruction. The fragment can generate that kind of power, but you'll need to learn how to focus it. A low rumble shook the station as the Void Hunters began their attack. Nathan could feel their presence like a cold weight pressing against his mind, hungry and alien and utterly without mercy. But he could also feel the fragment responding, filling him with warm stellar fire they pushed back against the darkness. "Lesson 1, he said, raising his hand toward the nearest viewport. Energy flowed through him, and suddenly he could see. The attacking ships not as distant specks, but as clear targets. How do I make things explode? Zara laughed despite the danger. Think of the energy as an extension of yourself. Will it to take form, to have purpose? A fragment will do the rest. Nathan focused, imagining the energy in his hand condensing into something solid and destructive. A sphere of brilliant light formed in his palm, crackling with contained stellar. Fire. He could feel its weight, its potential. Now what? He asked, still marveling at the fact that he was holding a miniature star. Now you throw it, Zara said, activating the station's external cameras. But be careful. That's enough energy to vaporize a small moon. Nathan looked at the energy sphere, then at the approaching Void Hunter ships. You know what? I've had a really weird day, and I think I'm entitled to some therapeutic violence. He hurled the sphere toward the nearest ship. It streaked through space like a comet, leaving a trail of pure light in its wake. When it struck the Void Hunter vessel, the explosion was visible from 3 moons away. The ship simply ceased to exist, replaced by an expanding sphere of brilliant plasma. The other Void Hunter ships immediately changed course, their formations scattering as they tried to identify the source of the attack. Nathan could feel their confusion through the fragment's connection to the cosmic web, their disbelief that something so primitive could threaten them. One down, Nathan said, already forming another energy sphere. How many more? Too many. Zara replied, monitoring the sensor displays. The main ship is launching more scouts. We need to move. Nathan looked at the massive Void Hunter mothership, hanging in space like a cancerous tumor. It was easily 10 times the size of the station, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. But looking at it, he didn't feel fear. He felt angry. No, he said, walking toward the station's airlock. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. These things destroyed your world, and now they want to destroy mine. Time to send them a message. Zara grabbed his arm. Nathan, you can't survive. In space, the fragment is powerful, but you're still human. Nathan looked down at her hand, then back at her face. Am I? Because I'm pretty sure humans can't do this. He gestured, and the station's gravity shifted, rotating 90 degrees so that what had been the floor was now the wall. Zara gasped as she found herself standing on what used to be a control panel, her feet somehow finding purchase on the vertical surface. The fragment isn't just giving me power, Nathan realized. It's changing the rules. Physics is more like a suggestion now. He headed for the airlock, energy crackling around him like a personal aurora. Stay here. Monitor the situation. If this goes badly, take the station and run. Nathan, wait, Zara called after him. What are you planning? Nathan paused at the airlock door, his hand on the controls. I'm going to introduce the Void Hunters to human stubbornness. They wanted to hunt us? Let's see how they like being the prey. The airlock cycled open, and Nathan stepped into the vacuum of space. The fragment's power wrapped around him like a second skin, creating a bubble of breathable atmosphere and protecting him from the cosmic radiation. He could feel the cold trying to reach him, but he couldn't touch the stellar fire burning in his chest. Behind him, the station's lights flickered as Zara watched him float away, a human-shaped star heading toward a battle that would determine. The fate of 2 worlds dot the battle space had never felt so personal. Nathan floated in the void between Titan and the Void Hunter fleet, surrounded by the kind of emptiness that usually made humans feel small and insignificant. But with the stellar core fragment bonded to his very being, he felt like he belonged. Here among the stars, the cosmic energy flowing through him created a protective field that kept him warm and breathing. while his enhanced senses tracked every movement of the enemy ships. The Void Hunter mothership was a monument to darkness, its hull seeming to absorb light itself. Nathan could feel the hunger radiating from it, a cosmic appetite that had devoured countless worlds. But he could also sense something else: confusion. The creatures inside couldn't understand what they were seeing. A single human floating in space without a ship or suit, crackling with stellar energy like a miniature sun. "Let me explain it to you," Nathan said, knowing they couldn't hear him, but feeling better for saying it anyway. "This is what happens when you threaten someone's home." He raised both hands, feeling the fragment's power surge through him. Energy gathered in his palms, not the small spheres he'd created before, but something larger, more focused. The power felt limitless, as if he could reach into the heart of any star in the galaxy and borrow its fire. The first wave of scout ships came at him in a tight formation, their weapons charging with the kind of energy that could reduce mountains to dust. Nathan waited until they were close enough to see the pilots' faces through their transparent canopies, then unleashed a concentrated beam of stellar fire that cut through their formation like a sword through paper. 3 ships vanished instantly, their hulls unable to withstand the coherent energy. The remaining scouts scattered, their formations breaking as they tried to understand what they were fighting. Nathan could feel their fear through the cosmic web, an alien terror at encountering something that shouldn't exist. Back on the station, Zara watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and terror. She'd seen the power of stellar core fragments before, but never wielded by a human. Nathan was doing things that should have been impossible, bending the laws of physics with the casual ease of someone rearranging furniture. "Be careful," she whispered, knowing he couldn't hear her. "Don't let the power consume you." In space, Nathan was learning the true extent of his abilities. When a group of Void Hunter ships tried to flank him, he simply gestured and twisted space around them, creating a gravitational knot that crushed their hulls like tin cans. When they fired their entropy weapons at him, he absorbed the energy and redirected it back at them as pure creation force, turning their own weapons against them. But the mothership was still there, and Nathan could feel it preparing something massive. The hull was opening, revealing a weapon that looked like a miniature black hole, swirling with the kind of darkness that made reality itself seem less certain. A null cannon, Nathan realized, the fragment's memories providing the knowledge. "They're going to try to erase me from existence." The weapon fired, sending a beam of pure nothingness toward him. Nathan felt the universe itself recoil from the attack, space-time rippling around the path of destruction. But instead of running, he did something that surprised even himself. He reached out and caught it. The null beam struck his outstretched hand and simply stopped, its destructive energy held in check by his will alone. Nathan could feel it trying to unmake him, to reduce him to component atoms, and then less than that. But the stellar fire in his chest burned brighter, refusing to be extinguished. "No," he said, his voice somehow carrying across the vacuum to reach the Void Hunter ship. "I don't think so." He closed his fist, and the null beam collapsed in on itself, becoming a sphere of compressed nothingness that he held like a dark mirror to the light in his other hand. The Void Hunter's confusion was palpable now, their alien minds struggling to process what they were seeing. Nathan looked at the 2 spheres in his hands, one of pure creation, one of absolute destruction, and suddenly understood what he had to do. The fragment's power wasn't just about fighting. It was about balance, about finding harmony between opposing forces. He brought his hands together, letting the light and darkness merge. The explosion was visible from Jupiter, a flash of perfect white light that transformed the very structure of local space-time. When it faded, the Void Hunter mothership was gone, not destroyed but transformed, its hull now gleaming with the same stellar fire that burned in Nathan's chest. Inside the converted ship, The Void Hunters found themselves changed as well. Hunger that had driven them for eons was gone, replaced by something they'd never experienced before, the desire to create rather than consume. They looked at each other with new eyes, seeing beauty instead of prey, potential instead of entropy. Nathan floated in space, exhausted but victorious. The fragment's power had drained him, but he could feel it already beginning to recharge, drawing energy from the local star. Around him, the remaining Void Hunter ships were also transforming, their crews awakening to possibilities they'd never imagined. A communication signal reached him from the converted mothership. When he opened the channel, he heard something that made him smile, laughter. Alien laughter, yes, but recognizable in its joy and surprise. "What have you done to us?" The voice asked, but there was no anger in it, only wonder. "I gave you a choice," Nathan replied. "You can keep consuming worlds, or you can help build them instead. The power is in your hands now." He turned and began flying back toward the station, leaving the transformed fleet to contemplate their new existence. Behind him, the converted Void Hunters began to sing, their voices harmonizing in a song of creation that would echo through the cosmos for years to come. On the station, Zara was waiting for him at the airlock, tears streaming down her face. When he stepped back inside, the gravity returned to normal, and he collapsed into her arms, human again, but forever changed. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." Nathan looked up at her, seeing the pride and love in her eyes. "We did it. I couldn't have done any of this without you." She smiled, leaning down to kiss him softly. "So what do we do now?" Nathan looked out the viewport, at the transformed fleet, at the stars beyond, at the infinite possibilities stretching out. Before them, now we go home. Earth is going to need to know about all this, and I have a feeling our adventures are just beginning. The new dawn 3 months after the Battle of Titan, Nathan stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching as human and former Void Hunter engineers worked together to install the latest quantum resonance arrays. The station orbited Earth at the L5 Lagrange point, a symbol of the unprecedented cooperation between species that had emerged from what the media is calling the salvation event. The transformation of the Void Hunters had been more complete than anyone had expected. The stellar energy that had converted them from consumers to creators had also awakened dormant parts of their consciousness, revealing that they had once been a peaceful civilization before some cosmic trauma had twisted them into entropy feeders. Now calling themselves the architects, they were dedicated to helping rebuild the worlds they had destroyed. "The irony is beautiful," Zara said, joining Nathan at the observation window. She wore the uniform of the new Interspecies Cooperation Council, her diplomatic credentials identifying her as Earth's official liaison to the Architect fleet. They spent millennia perfecting the art of destruction, which makes them remarkably good at construction when they put their minds to it. Nathan smiled, watching a massive architect ship carefully maneuvering a prefabricated habitat module into position. The aliens' natural understanding of entropy made them incredibly efficient at organizing complex systems. "How are the integration talks going?" "Better than expected," Zara replied. "The Architect Council is genuinely remorseful about their past actions. They've agreed to help rebuild every world they damaged, and they're sharing their advanced technology freely. The reconstruction of Vega Colony should be complete within 6 months." Nathan nodded, still amazed by how quickly everything had changed. The stellar core fragment had done more than just give him power. It had created a bridge between species that had seemed fundamentally incompatible. The energy that flowed through him now was calmer, more controlled, but no less potent. He'd learned to use it for creation rather than destruction, helping to design the new technologies that were revolutionizing human civilization. "Any word from the deep space exploration teams?" he asked, Zara's expression grew excited. Actually, yes. Team 7 found something incredible near the Andromeda relay. Another fragment, but this one's different. It's not just stellar energy. It's something older, more fundamental. The architects think it might be a Genesis fragment, one of the original creation tools used by the predecessors. Nathan raised an eyebrow. The predecessors? The civilization that created the fragments in the first place, Zara explained. According to architect records, they were beings of pure energy who seeded the galaxy with tools for future species to find. They wanted to ensure that life would always have the means to defend itself against entropy and chaos. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Nathan activated the nearest comm panel, and Director Catherine Wells appeared on the screen. The head of the Interspecies Council looked tired but satisfied. "Nathan, Zara, I hope you're ready for a ceremony," she said with a smile. "The Global Assembly just voted unanimously to establish the Guardian Corps, with you as the first director. Congratulations, Director Cole." Nathan felt a familiar flutter of nervousness. "Director Wells, I'm honored, but I'm not sure I'm qualified to run an interplanetary organization. You transformed a species of cosmic destroyers into galactic gardeners," Wells replied dryly. "I think you can handle some paperwork. Besides, you'll have help. The architects are contributing their best engineers, and we've got volunteers from 17 different colonies." After the call ended, Nathan and Zara walked to the station's central hub, where the fragment now called the Harmony Core was housed in a specialized containment chamber. The crystal pulsed gently, its light warm and welcoming, rather than the harsh glare it had shown during the battle. "Nervous?" Zara asked, taking his hand. "Terrified," Nathan admitted. 6 months ago, I was just a researcher with a coffee addiction and a tendency to talk to my equipment. Now I'm apparently responsible for defending the galaxy against cosmic threats." Zara squeezed his hand. "You won't be doing it alone. We're partners in this, remember?" Nathan looked at her, seeing the woman who had awakened in his lab and changed everything. "Partners," he agreed. "I like the sound of that." Around them, the station hummed with activity as humans and architects worked together to build something unprecedented. A truly interspecies civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. The Guardian Corps would be its protectors, wielding the power of the fragments to ensure that the darkness between the stars would never again threaten the light of conscious life. Through the observation windows, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, surrounded by the ships of a dozen. Different species all working toward the same goal. It was a sight that would have been impossible just months before, but now felt like the natural order of things. Nathan felt the fragment's power stir within him, not the violent surge of battle, but the gentle warmth of creation. There were more fragments out there, more threats to face, more worlds to protect. But for the first time since this all began, he wasn't afraid. He was ready. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity, with its stubborn refusal to accept defeat, and its inexplicable ability to find hope in the darkest places, was finally ready to take its place among the stars. The age of hiding was over. The age of the Guardians had begun. As if in response to his thoughts, the Harmony Core pulsed once, sending a wave of gentle energy throughout the station. It was a promise, a benediction, and a call to adventure all. At once, Nathan smiled, squeezed Zara's hand, and together they walked toward the command center, ready to face whatever challenges the cosmos might throw at them. After all, they were human. And humans, as the universe was learning, were very difficult to stop once they set their minds to something.